Black girl spent her last $8 helping Hell's Angel. Next day 100 bikers brought a life-changing gift part. 1. The weight of empty pockets. The morning sun filtered through the cracked blinds of Maya Johnson's studio apartment, casting thin golden lines across the worn carpet. She sat at the edge of her mattress, counting the bills and coins spread across her lap for the third time. $8.47. That was all that stood between her and complete emptiness until her next paycheck arrived in 5 days. Maya was 28 years old, though some days she felt twice that. Her hands, calloused from double shifts at the Riverside Diner, trembled slightly as she folded the bills and tucked them into her wallet. She had been a server there for 3 years, smiling through exhaustion, remembering orders without writing them down, treating every customer like family, even when they barely acknowledged her existence. The apartment around her told the story of a woman who had learned to survive on very little. A donated couch with faded floral patterns. A small television that only worked if you hit it just right. A kitchen table she had found on the curb and refinished herself. But everything was clean, organized, and filled with the kind of dignity that no amount of poverty could strip away. Her phone buzzed with a text from her manager. "Can you cover the lunch shift today?" Angela called in sick. Maya closed her eyes and exhaled slowly. Her day off had just vanished, but she could not afford to say no. Every hour meant tips, and tips meant eating something other than ramen noodles for the 4th night in a row. She stood and moved to the small mirror by the door, smoothing down her hair and practicing her smile. It was a skill she had perfected over the years, the ability to carry the world on her shoulders, while making everyone around her feel lighter. Her grandmother had taught her that. "Baby," she used to say, "kindness don't cost nothing. And sometimes it's the only currency that matters." Maya grabbed her keys and headed out into a world that rarely noticed her, carrying that lesson like armor against everything trying to break her spirit. Part 2. The stranger at table 7. The lunch rush at Riverside Diner hit like a wave. Maya moved between tables with practiced efficiency, balancing plates, refilling coffee cups, and deflecting the occasional inappropriate comment with grace she had learned to manufacture. Her feet ached in shoes that needed replacing 2 months ago, but she kept smiling, kept moving, kept surviving. Around 2 in the afternoon, when the crowd finally thinned, the door chimed. Maya looked up and felt her breath catch for just a moment. The man who walked in was massive, well over 6 feet tall, with a gray beard that reached his chest and arms covered in tattoos. His leather vest bore patches she recognized from the news. Hell's Angels. The skull and wings insignia sat prominently on his back. The other server, Jessica, immediately found something urgent to do in the back. The cook, Marcus, watched nervously through the window. Maya felt every eye in the restaurant, tracking the stranger's movement, felt the temperature of the room change as fear dressed itself up as caution. But Maya saw something else. She saw the way the man's shoulders sagged with exhaustion. She saw the limp in his step as he made his way to the booth in the corner. She saw the pain written across his weathered face, the kind of pain that transcended any stereotype or assumption. "Afternoon, sir," Maya said, approaching with a menu and a glass of water. "Welcome to Riverside. I'm Maya, and I'll be taking care of you today." The man looked up, and for a moment, surprise flickered across his features. Most people avoided eye contact with him. Most people made their judgments and kept their distance. But Maya stood there with genuine warmth, treating him exactly like she treated everyone else, like a human being deserving of dignity. "Thank you," he said quietly, his voice rough like gravel. "Just coffee for now." "Need a minute with the menu." "Take all the time you need," Maya replied, and she meant it. She poured his coffee, noting how his hands shook slightly as he wrapped them around the warm cup. She had seen that shake before in her own grandmother, during her final months. Not fear, not withdrawal, pain, the deep, bone-tired kind that medication could barely touch. Part 3. A choice between survival and compassion. Man, he had introduced himself simply as Dutch ordered a turkey sandwich and sat quietly in his corner booth for nearly an hour. Maya checked on him regularly, refilling his coffee, making small talk that he seemed surprised but grateful for. He told her he was traveling through, heading to see his daughter 3 states away. Told her he had not seen her in 5 years, but she had finally agreed to let him meet his grandson. "That's beautiful," Maya said, and she meant it. "Family's everything. Sometimes it takes losing it to understand that," Dutch replied, something heavy and regretful in his tone. When he finally asked for the check, Maya brought it over. $14.75. Dutch reached for his wallet, then stopped. His face went pale. He checked his pockets frantically, his movements becoming more desperate with each empty search. "No," he whispered. No. Maya watched his distress build, watched shame and panic war across his features. "Sir, everything okay?" "My wallet," Dutch said, his voice breaking. "It's gone. Must have fallen out somewhere on the road. I had $300 in there. Everything I had to make it to my daughter's place." He looked up at her, and Maya saw tears gathering in the eyes of this huge, intimidating man. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I can wash dishes. I can clean. I can... How much gas you need to get where you're going?" Maya interrupted gently. Dutch blinked. "What? To your daughter's house. How much gas money you need?" "I may be $20. But I can't ask you to." Maya was already pulling out her wallet. $8.47. Everything she had until Tuesday. She looked at it for a long moment, thinking about the ramen noodles at home, thinking about the electricity bill that was already overdue, thinking about all the reasons she should not do what she was about to do. Then she thought about her grandmother's voice. Kindness don't cost nothing, and sometimes it's the only currency that matters. Part 4. The ripple of a simple gift. Maya pulled out all $8 and walked to the register. Marcus, the cook, watched from the kitchen window with confusion written across his face. Jessica, the other server, whispered something to a regular customer and shook her head. Maya ignored them both. She paid for Dutch's meal out of her own pocket, then returned to his table. "The meal's taken care of," she said softly. "And I know it's not the 20 you need, but here." She held out the remaining $3.47. "It's all I got right now, but maybe it'll get you a little closer." Dutch stared at the crumpled bills and coins in her hand like he was seeing something holy. "I can't," he said, his voice thick. "I can't take your money." "You're not taking it," Maya replied. "I'm giving it. There's a difference." She pressed the money into his hand. "You go see that grandson. You make things right with your daughter. That's payment enough." A tear rolled down Dutch's weathered cheek. "Why would you do this?" "You don't know me." Maya smiled, and it was not her practiced server smile. It was something real and deep. "My grandmother used to say we're all just walking each other home. Sometimes you carry someone for a while, and sometimes someone carries you. Today, I get to carry you a little bit." Dutch stood slowly, towering over her, and for a moment, Maya wondered if she had misjudged everything. Then he did something unexpected. He removed one of the patches from his vest, a small embroidered angel wing, and handed it to her. "My road name is Dutch," he said formally. "I ride with the Hells Angels, Riverside chapter. This wing means something where I come from. It means you're protected. It means your family." He closed her hand around the patch. "I won't forget this. On my honor, I won't forget what you did today." Maya did not fully understand the weight of what she held, but she nodded. "You just get to your daughter safe. That's all I ask." Dutch walked to the door, turned back once more with something like wonder on his face, then disappeared into the afternoon sun. Maya returned to wiping down tables, unaware that she had just set something profound into motion. Part 5. The storm before the dawn. The rest of Maya's shift passed in a blur of exhaustion. She smiled mechanically, served automatically, and counted down the minutes until she could go home and figure out how to survive the next 5 days on nothing. Jessica made a few snide comments about giving away money to criminals, but Maya tuned her out. Marcus slipped her some leftover soup in a container before she left. His way of showing he understood, even if he did not say it out loud, that the walk home felt longer than usual. Maya's feet throbbed, her lower back ached, and her stomach growled with a hunger she had gotten good at ignoring. She stopped at the small corner store and used the coins in her car's cup holder to buy a loaf of bread. 79 cents. That would have to be breakfast, lunch, and dinner until Tuesday. That night, lying in bed, Maya let herself feel the full weight of her decision. She was not a reckless person. She budgeted carefully, worked constantly, and still barely survived. Giving away her last $8 should have felt foolish. But somehow, lying there in the dark, she felt something else entirely. Peace. The kind that had nothing to do with her bank account and everything to do with knowing she had done the right thing. She fell asleep holding the small angel wing patch Dutch had given her. Unaware that 60 miles away, Dutch was sitting in a truck stop making phone calls. Unaware that he was telling the story of her kindness to his brothers in the club. Unaware that those brothers were already making plans, already organizing something that would change everything. The next morning, Maya woke to the sound of thunder. Except it was not thunder. It was deeper, rhythmic, growing louder by the second. She went to her window and pulled back the curtain, then froze in absolute shock. Motorcycles. Dozens of them. 50, 60, maybe more. All rolling slowly down her street in perfect formation. The roar of their engines shook the glass in her window. Neighbors emerged from their homes, phones out, some frightened, some curious. And at the front of the pack, leading them all, was Dutch. Part 6. The Brotherhood arrives. Maya grabbed a jacket and ran downstairs, her heart pounding in her chest. By the time she reached the street, the motorcycles had formed a semicircle in front of her building. The engines cut off one by one until silence fell like a curtain. Over 100 bikers stood before her, all wearing the same leather vests, the same patches, the same expression of solemn purpose. Dutch dismounted and walked toward her. Behind him, men and women of all ages, all backgrounds, all united by something Maya was only beginning to understand. A few neighbors watched nervously from their porches. Mrs. Chun from upstairs gripped her phone, like she might call the police. But Maya only had eyes for Dutch and the strange procession he had brought to her doorstep. "Maya Johnson," Dutch said, his voice carrying in the quiet morning air. "Yesterday, you showed me mercy when you had every reason not to. You gave me everything you had when you had nothing to spare. You treated me with dignity when the world taught you to fear men like me." He paused, emotion thick in his throat. "I made it to my daughter's house because of you. I held my grandson for the first time because of you. You gave me back my family." Maya felt tears gathering in her eyes. "I was just trying to help." "I know," Dutch replied. "That's exactly why we're here." He gestured to the riders behind him. "These are my brothers and sisters. When I told them what you did, every single one of them wanted to do something in return. See, we might look scary to some folks. We might have a reputation, but we understand loyalty, honor, and taking care of our own. And as of yesterday, you became one of our own." A woman stepped forward, tall and strong with silver hair pulled back in a braid. "I'm Diane," she said. "Dutch told us you work at the diner, that you're struggling to make ends meet." We took up a collection. Another biker, younger with kind eyes, held out an envelope. "There's $5,000 in here," he said. "From all of us, not alone. A gift. Because what you did for Dutch was priceless, and we pay our debts." Maya's knees nearly buckled. "I can't. That's too much ... I didn't do it for money." "We know," Diane said gently. "That's exactly why you deserve it." Part 7. The community stands together, but they were not finished. Dutch nodded to several riders who began unloading items from trailers hitched to their bikes. Bags of groceries, real food, not just ramen and bread. A new pair of work shoes, sturdy and comfortable. Gift cards to the local gas station and grocery store. Someone had even brought a warm winter coat, tags still attached. "We made some calls too," Dutch continued. "Got in touch with the owner of your apartment building. Turns out he's been letting this place fall apart while charging you way too much. We had a very polite conversation with him. Your rent's being reduced by $200 a month, and he's agreed to make the repairs you've been requesting for 2 years." Maya could not speak, could not process what was happening. She had given away $8 and somehow received back more than she could have ever imagined, not just in money, but in the overwhelming feeling of being seen, being valued, being protected by people she had only just met. A few of her neighbors had crept closer, their initial fear replaced by curiosity, and then something like awe. Marcus from the diner had walked over from his nearby apartment, his mouth hanging open. Even Mrs. Chun had put down her phone and was wiping tears from her eyes. "There's one more thing," Dutch said. He pulled out a leather vest, smaller than the others, customized. On the back, where club patches would normally go, was instead a beautiful embroidered angel with the words "Honorary Member, Heart of Gold" stitched beneath it. "You don't have to wear it if you don't want to," Dutch said. "And you're not obligated to us in any way. But if you ever need anything at all, you call. We take care of family, and your family now." Maya took the vest with shaking hands. She looked at the faces surrounding her hardened men and women who had lived rough lives, made mistakes, carried their own scars. But in every single face, she saw the same thing: respect, gratitude, love. "I don't know what to say," she whispered. "You don't have to say anything," Diane replied. "You already said everything that mattered when you gave Dutch your last $8. Part 8. The currency of kindness. The bikers stayed for 2 hours. They helped Maya carry everything upstairs to her apartment. They shared stories, laughed, and treated her like she had been part of their family for years instead of days. Several of them exchanged phone numbers with her, making her promise to call if she ever needed help with anything. When they finally prepared to leave, each one stopped to shake her hand or hug her. Dutch was the last to say goodbye. "You changed my life," he told her quietly. "I was in a dark place before yesterday. Thought maybe I had burned too many bridges, made too many mistakes. Then you showed me that mercy still exists in this world. That kindness still matters. You reminded me that I could still be someone's hero if I just tried." "You were always someone's hero," Maya replied. "You just needed someone to remind you." Dutch smiled, touched the brim of an imaginary hat, and mounted his motorcycle. The engines roared to life once more, and the Brotherhood rolled away in the same perfect formation they had arrived in, leaving Maya standing in front of her building, holding $5,000 and a leather vest that represented something far more valuable than money. Mrs. Chun approached her cautiously. "I thought they were trouble," she admitted. "I was wrong." "We all were," Marcus added, shaking his head in amazement. "Maya, you're something else." Maya looked down at the envelope in her hands, thought about the groceries in her apartment, the reduced rent, the coat for winter. But mostly, she thought about Dutch's face when she had given him her last $8. The way his eyes had filled with tears. The way hope had replaced despair. That night, Maya called her mother and told her the whole story. When she finished, her mother was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Baby, your grandmother would be so proud. You remembered what she taught you. That kindness is the only currency that really matters. You were rich yesterday with your $8 because you had a generous heart. And you're rich today because you used it." Maya hung up the phone and looked at the angel wing patch sitting on her table beside the new vest. She thought about chains of kindness, about how one small act could ripple outward in ways you could never predict. She had been surviving for so long, just barely keeping her head above water. But today, she learned something profound. Sometimes, you have to give everything away to understand that you were never poor to begin with. The vest hung on her wall now. A reminder that family is not always blood, that protection can come from unexpected places, and that the world still had magic in it, the magic of human beings choosing to be good to each other when they absolutely did not have to be. Maya Johnson went to bed that night fuller than she had been in years. And it had nothing to do with the groceries. She had given away her last $8 and received back something no amount of money could ever buy. The absolute certainty that she mattered, that her kindness had weight, and that in a world that so often felt cold and indifferent, there were still people who understood the value of a generous heart. 3 weeks later, Dutch called. His daughter had asked him to stay. His grandson called him Grandpa. He was rebuilding his life, one day at a time. And it all started, he said, because a humble woman in a diner treated him like he was worth something. "You didn't just give me gas money," Dutch told her. "You gave me back my humanity." Never forget how powerful that is. Maya never did,